Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another special guest episode. I'm excited today to be joined by Dr. Mary Alice Mina. We are going to be diving into kind of some self care, some skincare. She is a dermatologist, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. So, Mary Alice, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Megan. I love to be here. I love talking with other doctors, other podcasters. So this is really special. So thank you.
Yeah. So, let's start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you? What do you do? What's your practice like?
Yeah, so I am a double board certified dermatologist and I practice in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved to Atlanta to do my fellowship in Mohs micrographic surgery, which is a technique to remove skin cancer. And I met my business partner, and I really resonated with how he practiced and took care of patients. And I joined him, and that was, gosh, over 11 years ago. And so we are set here. We have two offices, and I do mostly procedural dermatology. So a lot of skin cancer surgery, cyst lipomas. I kind of joke I'm Dr. Pimple Popper ATL. So I do all that kind of stuff. And then I do a good bit of cosmetics and aesthetics. And in the last couple of years, though, I started thinking, how can I reach more people? Because I found there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Hmm.
And I found as I hit my 40s and all my friends were hitting their 40s, things start to change. It's
Yeah.
the aging process starts to become real and visible, where maybe you could kind of fake it in your 20s and 30s. And I was getting a lot of people asking me questions, a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation. And as much as I love seeing patients in my practice and office, right? Like you're limited to those quick visits and it's insurance based. And so I started a podcast called The Skin Reel, just to help reach a wider audience and to help give really good information. I know it's hard to see a dermatologist nowadays, and the visits are short, and a lot of people are also consuming their medical or their information on social media. So I
Yeah.
thought I got to be where the people are, where they're trying to get
Mm.
information, and at least be a reasonable voice out there to give people
Yeah.
good information. And so I've been doing that now for about a year and a half. I just hit my 100th episode, and it's a lot of fun, and I hope people are getting some value from it. And if they're wondering, is that trend really real or whatever, I hope they'll be like, let me go see what Dr. Mina says about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and as a primary care person, right, I know how hard it is to get people into the dermatologist, and so I'll always have patients come in and be like, "I think I just wanna go see the dermatologist." I'm just like, "Oh, what
Yeah.
planet do you think we're on right now?"
I know. I know.
Not
It's
that
it's
easy.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not enough out there
Yeah.
of us, and it can be hard to see
Yeah.
people. I do think with COVID and telemedicine becoming more mainstream, that
Mhm.
hopefully that will also help with this issue, because there are also just these like dermatology deserts, I guess, where there's just
Yeah.
not there's areas of the country where people don't have access to
Yeah.
dermatologists. And a lot of this information that I give is something you can kind of consume without having to go and see someone
Right.
one on one, too.
Right,
So,
right. Because so many
um,
of the questions are, how do I take care of my skin? How do I, aging, all of those things, which you're not going to get a 30-minute visit with a dermatologist to talk about anyway. So I
right.
love that.
Yeah, so yeah, hopefully it's a good way for people to be like, "Hey, what do I need to know for summer skin, or how do I take care of my
Yeah.
hair in the summer when I'm in the pool a lot and chlorine?" Just stuff like that. And I base it all off questions that I get from my patients and my friends, and sometimes questions I have personally where I'm like, should I
Hmm.
be doing this or should I be using that?" So it's a lot of fun. I find that I learn just as much as my listeners half the time, because most of the episodes are interviews. So I have my colleagues on, dermatologists, but we've also branched out nutrition and productivity and things like that too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So tell us a little bit about kind of your experience in your lived body, with your skin, with your practice of medicine, because we haven't really talked about this very much, in the podcast before, but, we are living in our bodies and we are experiencing things in our bodies that we don't necessarily want to be happening. And before we, sort of started recording here, you had shared, some of your own experience with, being in a time in your life where you weren't taking very good care of yourself and kind of how that was manifesting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, hold on, Megan. Was that what I said about being in med school and
Mhm, mhm,
okay, yeah. Well, oh my gosh, I think probably a lot of listeners can relate. And if you've been to medical school and internship and even residency, right, we did take care of ourselves. The culture of medicine
mhm,
is to take care of everyone else, and you are literally an afterthought. Plus, compound that with being a mom, right? Where there's
mhm.
this expectation you're a martyr, you do it all,
Yeah.
you don't need help, everything's perfect. And spoiler alert, these are impossible, right? Like you are never going to hit those metrics. You're going to constantly be disappointed. And I'll say that's one good thing about getting older is you start to care less about what other people think, and you
Mhm,
can start to have more confidence. Like, hey, this is my life. This is what I do. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot. So I used to actually be a ballet dancer before I went into medicine, and there is a ton of emphasis on how you look and
mhm,
your appearance and your body. And so, gosh, like that is really difficult in and of itself. And I remember being excited to go to medical school where I was like, okay, now I can be valued for my mind. Now
mhm,
it's how I think and taking care of patients. Like that's what matters, not what I look like. And I remember that being a big relief in a way that I didn't
mhm.
have to have that critical eye on my body, my looks all the time, and that was a huge relief. But then I go into dermatology, right, which sometimes can have a really critical eye on how you look. But I think a lot of it we put on ourselves. We feel
Absolutely.
like, okay, I've got this like image I have to portray. I'm a dermatologist. I have to have good looking skin.
Have to have good skin, hair, all the things. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like no one wants to go see a personal trainer who's not incredibly fit. So no one wants to see a dermatologist who has acne or doesn't look perfect. So that was a little bit of pressure there. But yeah, when I laugh because when I was in medical school, I would spend about an hour and a half every single morning getting ready in the morning, and I
Mhm.
would do my hair. I would wake up, I would shower, I would wash my hair every single day. And if I had really long hair, like longer than I have now. And of course, then I had to dry it. And then after I dried it, I have to curl it. And then I thought curling was a time saver because I would use these hot rollers and I would put them up and then I would do my makeup.
Yeah.
And I don't do a ton of makeup, but I did foundation and I had to do my eyebrows and my mascara and eyeshadow and all that stuff. And then finally, I would like leave for my classes, right? And I was able to do this for the first couple of years because
Mhm,
there was more lecture and all that. But
mhm.
then third year hit, and third years when you're in the hospital, and I would be on these rotations that would last 36 hours or certainly 24 hours, and you'd have to
Right.
spend the night in the hospital. And I remember feeling so bad about myself in the morning. I mean, I was sleep deprived, usually wasn't eating well. And
Yeah.
then I wouldn't be doing my elaborate routine. And I would wake up and I would feel like I am unrecognizable. Like people
Mm,
don't know who I am. And I'd feel like I have to reintroduce myself to my patients when I'd round or the team in the morning, like, oh hey, it's me, Mary Alice. I look like Jekyll Hyde sort of deal. And I remember having a really hard time with it, but I was
yeah.
just so sleep deprived, so tired that was finally the catalyst that made me realize like, what am I doing? Why am I spending all this time and effort every single day? And now I look back and I'm like, I want all those hundreds of thousands of hours of my life.
Yeah.
Like, why did I do that? Now in my mornings, I spend waking up and I try to do something important for me, whether that's working
Mhm.
on my podcast or my personal brand, or whether that's stretching and doing yoga or exercising or reading a book that I enjoy, right? And I spend 6:45 to 7 getting ready, getting myself ready.
Yeah.
And I still like to wear makeup. I'm not saying you can. And like, hey, for you, Megan, I did wash and dry my hair because I went to hot yoga earlier. But like this hair is going to last for the next 4 days. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going
Yeah.
to wash it and redo it all.
Yeah.
So I just kind of realized like, this is ridiculous. What am I
Yeah.
doing? I'm literally wasting hours, days, weeks of my life. I don't even want to calculate how much.
Yeah.
Um, Putting on this like persona that I thought I had to do. And like, spoiler alert, once I stopped doing that, nothing changed in my
Nothing
life. Like,
changed.
except I had more time. It wasn't like
Yeah.
people's, like, my husband stopped loving me. My children stopped loving me. People didn't want to hang out with me. Like, nothing changed. So
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I had totally just put that pressure on myself and I didn't need to. And now I feel like I have a much healthier approach
Yeah.
to my morning routine and everything. But I say this story because I see it in my friends and some family members who and patients who feel like they have to come see me with a full face of makeup on, or
Right.
they can only take a picture if they're looking amazing and everything is just perfect. And it is a little bit, it's sad, right? Because I feel like there's so much pressure they're putting on themselves and it's unnecessary. And
Yeah.
I do find as we get older, I do have more confidence to say, like, yeah, I'm going to run to the grocery store right after hot yoga with no makeup on, sweaty. And I
Yeah.
actually, maybe
And
you've
no
seen
one
the,
cares.
yeah. Have you seen these reels where like the older you get, the more okay you are with going out in public, like looking worse and worse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying like you just stop caring, but your priorities change,
Yeah.
and or they should change. And I
Yeah.
think that's healthy, and that's been a healthy thing for me to realize. Like, I don't have to be perfect all the time. I don't have to look perfect all the time. Who am
Yeah.
I trying to impress? Right? Like my friends
Right.
are going to be my friends, and my family's going to still love me.
Right. You
It's
aren't any more
okay.
smart or valuable as, as a mom, as a physician, like none of those roles require that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I still like to dress up and I like to look pretty, right? It feels good. I do enjoy that. I'm not going to say I never like to do that, right? But you can do it in a healthier way.
Absolutely.
And I hopefully, like with my podcast too, I try to really emphasize like keeping it simple. People think skincare has to be so complicated. And when I tell them what I do, they're usually like, what? Or I tell them I literally use like Dove beauty bar that cost me like $1.48. And I've been using that for decades. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be complicated. I know it feels that way because we're constantly
Or the
being
marketing, right?
marketed like, you gotta use this eye cream, use this neck cream, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and you don't. It's
Mhm.
overwhelming, I get it. That's why it's important to really who are you trusting with your advice, right? Like, do they really have the expertise? And then also, what's their angle? Because chances are they are trying to sell you something.
When I think I want to go back to what you said before, because when you were in the ballet world, right, you had this experience of like, oh, it's so focused on appearance. And we thought, okay, if I go to medical school, right, and I take this very different path, that won't be important anymore. But you carried the ideas with you of like, I have to look this way, and especially going to dermatology, right? We put this extra layer on there. That's so common, right? That we think it's the place we're at that's doing it, but really we've internalized all that messaging and we just bring it with us, right? When people are experiencing burnout, right, they often want to leave the job that they're in and they think, I'll go over there and it will be better, but they take all their perfectionist and people pleasing habits with them and they eventually burn out there, right? It's that mindset, it's that deciding for themselves that makes
Yeah,
such a
gosh.
difference.
When you say it like that, I really had never thought of it that way, but absolutely. Yeah, I could have gone into like steel welding, right? And I'd still probably
You're like,
want to
"Well, I'm
look
gonna be the
amazing with my
prettiest
hat.
steel welder there is."
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great point. Until you kind of change your thoughts about it and reframe it, you're going to keep doing the same thing. And I think that's one thing. When I hit my 40s, I sort of had this like reckoning of things are changing. How do I want the rest of my life to look? And that it was kind of with COVID, I started delving into this whole like physician entrepreneur community that was out there. I
Mhm.
really love practicing. I know a lot of doctors out there are burnout and they don't find clinical practice fulfilling. And I totally get that. And there are days certainly where I'm super frustrated too. But all in all, I still really love it. But what I wanted, I felt like there was something else. Like, what's my next challenge? And then I find this whole community of
Mhm.
physician entrepreneurs doing coaching, real estate, all these cool things, podcasts. And that's really opened up my eyes. Like, I also, and I'm sure you see this with your clients and yourself, right? Like, as a doctor, that's our label. And
Mhm.
everything about us, it's like we're a doctor. And I had that
Right.
exact same feeling with being a dancer. I remember thinking,
Mm.
I've been a dancer for so many years. How can like everyone knew me as Mary Alice the dancer. Like, I couldn't foresee being anything else. It was my identity. And
Yeah.
then I basically just swapped dancer with doctor. And now I've come to realize, like, well, yes, I'm a doctor. It's a really important part of what I do and I love it. But what else is out there for
Yeah.
me?
Who else am I?
Right. Like, I am
Yeah.
more than just a doctor. I mean, being a doctor is wonderful, but I'm also more than that. And I also feel like people who are whatever career you're in, or if you're a stay-at-home mom or you're just a mom, right? You say, sometimes some of my friends who are stay-at-home moms will say, like, well, I'm just a stay-at-home mom,
I'm just a
right? Like,
mom. Yeah.
I'm just a mom, right? Like, that's actually a humongous role and responsibility. It's not just a mom, but we sort of label ourselves, and then sometimes it's hard to see ourselves as more than just that one thing. But that's where I found, like, coaching and community with other like-minded doctors has been so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and talk to us a little bit because I think people are very interested in also in kind of that simplifying that you talked about earlier. And when we and I agree with you, kind of coming coming into your 40s, right? Your priorities change and what you care about changes. And I'm just thinking for the person who's out there, because I of course see this a lot, women physicians beating themselves up of like, why don't I take better care of myself? And, it's so hard and putting themselves last. And, we do think that the eye cream is going to help, right? That the eye cream is self-care and totally, totally guilty of that kind of thinking myself. Um, for someone who's listening, and they're kind of stuck, like what would you want them to know? Like what's important from your perspective of having lived this journey thus far?
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, I'm all about simplicity, minimalism with skincare. And I think everyone else should too. I mean, we have so much going on in our lives. So really, skincare should not be this elaborate thing for you. Now, I know there's some people who are like, no, I love it. I love having that 30 minutes in the evening to do my routine or whatever. So if that is you and it's not interfering in your life, then like go do it and enjoy it. But I don't want people to think they have to do that. So I always say, think of the KISS principle, right? The keep it simple. But I sort of change it around. So like the K is know your skin. So
Mm,
everyone's skin is different and everyone's skin has different needs. My skin is different from yours. So you need to know what are your skin needs. And I talk about you have to pair your needs with your goals, because if your
mhm.
need is like my husband's and it's just like, my skin is just here to protect me or to, cover my body. Like,
Yeah.
you have pretty basic needs and you have no goals whatsoever about anti-aging or rejuvenation or whatever. But you also may be like, okay, I've got acne or I've got scarring, so I need to address that. And then I also want to keep my skin as youthful as possible, right? So you have to know your skin, know what you need. I'll sometimes tell people, I've never had a laser. All my friends have. I have access to all the lasers and devices out there between all my friends around the country.
Yeah.
And the only one I've ever done, just the other month, I tried just because I was curious, was RF microneedling. But before that, I've never had a chemical peel. I have never had lasers or devices on my face. And people are like, well, why? And I'm like, well, I haven't needed it. Right? Like, if I need it, I'll go do it, but I don't really need it. So why would I do it? And I find that people will come to me and say they'll give me all their routines that they do. And I had one lady, she's like, I use salicylic acid, and then I use benzoyl peroxide, and then I use all these things that were for acne. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, do you have acne? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, then why are you using all these acne things? So you have to know what you're treating. Like just because your best friend's using it or some amazing, beautiful celebrities using it, it doesn't mean you need to do it. So you kind of have to know what your skin needs, know what skin type you have. Are you sensitive? Are you oily? Are you dry? And then base your skincare routine around that. And really the only things you really, really, really need are a gentle cleanser, sunscreen, and a moisturizer for most people. And it could be that simple. Now, you can add a few extras. Like I like vitamin C in the morning and vitamin A at night, but that is it. Like that is all I do for my skin.
Yeah.
Um, so you got to know your skin. You have to invest in quality, and
Mm.
quality doesn't mean expensive, which people can't, they can't wrap their head around that sometimes. So most of my skincare, I would say, except for Elta MD that I have in my office because I like it on my face, is all from the drugstore. And people think,
Mm.
oh my gosh, like that must be awful. But no, like Neutrogena, Aveeno, Dove, La Roche-Posay, these are massive, massive companies, and they have
Mhm.
huge R&D budgets, and they are doing research on products, and they're doing clinical trials. Like this stuff is tested and tried and true.
Yeah.
And it's simple, but it is quality. And I like just, you need to see what the actives are and everything. And you can find, I mean, you could pay triple or what quadruple for something at the department store or Sephora or Ulta or whatever, but I mean, it's unnecessary. You just need to know what are the basic products, what are the actives you need, and that's all. And don't think that drugstore brands are just crap just because they are more affordable. And to be honest, I just went to the drugstore. I was like, gosh, these products actually are getting pretty expensive even in the
Yeah.
drugstore.
Yeah,
So
they are.
yeah, like I don't, my vitamin C, I mean, you could spend almost $200 on the SkinCeuticals if you want, but there's really no difference from using La Roche-Posay's or Rox or CeraVe's vitamin C serum. So as long as you're investing in quality products and actives and making sure you know what active you're getting, you don't need to spend a lot of money. When you're paying double, triple, all that, you're paying for marketing, you're paying for packaging.
Mhm.
Um, you're not really paying for, don't fool yourself that it's
Yeah, that's not more scientifically based to do
right.
anything special. I hadn't really thought about that, with the kind of R&D side, right? Because of course you do see these tiny brands, that are very expensive and
Right,
very
and
well
they're
marketed.
not, yeah, they're well marketed, but are they really doing the science and research? And I used to, I think of this story when I was younger. I had acne and I was really devastated by it. And my dad's a neonatologist and he was trying to manage it. And I just kept begging him. I would see these infomercials on TV about Proactive, and I would be like, Dad, please, like all my problems will be solved if you
Yeah,
just let me buy the Proactive system. And
yeah. But
that's
you
all
had
I
to order
wanted.
special at the time, right? I remember those.
Yeah, so I wanted that so badly, and instead, my dad, like, wrote me a prescription for a retinoid, and he got me benzoyl peroxide from the drugstore, and I just was, like, devastated. I thought all my acne will be better if I just could do Proactive. Well, guess what Proactive is? It's benzoyl peroxide. So, you can
And a
pay
vitamin, right?
more.
Wasn't it? It was a vitamin as well or
Well, I
something.
I don't know because I never got it. I was never allowed to use it. But, I did later in life look up, okay, what was really in Proactive? It's mostly benzoyl peroxide. It's these products that you can get
Yeah,
at the drugstore, which is what my dad was giving me. It's just that it was packaged nicely and
yeah,
pretty,
yeah.
and
It was
that's
on
what I thought
TV.
was gonna be better, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So the S for the KISS principle is just stay the course. And this is where I find
Mm,
people jump around so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Skincare is like, I say it's like weight loss or it's like exercise. You don't work out a couple times and say like, oh my gosh, why aren't I thinner? Why don't I have bigger muscles? Like, why don't I have more definition? Right. You
Yeah.
have to be consistent. You have to stick with it. If someone's promising you an overnight fix with a cream, I would say be really cautious with that. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Like it takes time, and I find that when people they'll try something, they'll quit after a couple weeks, say it doesn't work, and then they switch to something else, and then they're disappointed why they're not seeing results. So you really have to like, stay the course, stick with it, and be consistent for the best results, because you will see results if you stick with things.
Yeah.
And then the last S is you got to silence the noise. There is so much
Mm,
noise coming in about what you need to do, what you need to buy, all these at-home devices or these procedures you can get done. Like it's overwhelming, and it can be like, oh my gosh, like I have all these things I need to get done, and no money and no time, and I don't really know what works. So I really say you got to like silence the noise and find someone whose message resonates with you. Stick to their advice and guidance, or your local dermatologist. But if you're following all these people on Instagram who make you feel terrible about yourself, and your perfect life always makes you look at your life with regret and disdain, then unfollow them, right? Like that's
yeah,
not
just let it
healthy.
go.
And
Yeah,
follow people who portray themselves in a more real way, or surround yourself with friends who you can be honest and real with. I find that's my community of friends. Like I can tell them how things are going and be
yeah,
honest. I don't feel like I have to put up this facade.
yeah,
So silence the negativity, the noise out there. You can just cut it out. And I look at, here I am, a 44-year-old woman, and it can be challenging. And then I look at my kids who are going to be getting introduced to the world of social media in a few
yeah,
years.
yeah,
And I'm like, well, how do we expect our kids to be able to navigate this when it's hard for grown
absolutely.
women, smart grown women to chat, to do it. But yeah, like if you're constantly being, what is it, like being drawn in with ads for Sephora, Ulta, or whatever, like just like delete those emails,
Yeah,
unsubscribe,
yeah,
unfollow people who just are constantly giving you bad information or make you feel bad about yourself. And just you don't need that in your life.
yeah. No, I love that, and I think everything that you said just kind of applies, much more broadly, of course, than our skincare, right? It really applies of, let go of these ideas of like what you think things should be like and how you think you should be. And decide for yourself like what is important to you, what matters in your life, what do you have space for, what do you want to make space for, and what are you going to let go of. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell us how we can find you if someone's listening and they're like, "Ooh, I want more of that. I want to find out, kind of what she's using and kind of get the skincare help."
Yeah, all my drugstore hacks and very, very, very basic skincare. So yeah, if you are interested in learning about very basic skincare, you can definitely check out my podcast. It's The Skin Real, which, and nowadays I have to spell out real for people. It's REAL, real information. And I have a website and then a blog as well. But my handle is at Dr. Mina Skin. And if you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what my skin needs are, my skin type, I have a PDF for people at theskinreal.com/habits. And that can help you kind of delve into what you should be doing based on your needs and your skincare goals.
I love that. And we'll share all that in the show notes so people will be able to find it. Mary Alice, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been I don't know, just a really like fun and I think important conversation about, what do we have permission to care about and what can we let go of and take better care of ourselves. So thank you so much.
Oh, Megan, this was so much fun. I feel like skincare is just one of those things, like people are obsessed with it, but it can also
Yeah,
cause so much stress and anxiety. So, yeah, I love talking about it, and it was absolute pleasure to be on your show.
great. All right, my friends, that's what we have for you today. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.